fires. We stand with you. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, our hearts go out to those who've lost loved ones, homes, businesses, belongings, and precious memories. In these challenging times, we're here to keep you informed and connected. For the latest updates, resources, and ways to help your neighbors in need, stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580. Together, we'll rebuild. Together, we'll recover. Together, we are Los Angeles strong. KBLA Talk 1580. Your voice, your community, your station.
White diamonds, 2 a.m. she wildin'. She sick, got they stomach in her comments. What school you went to? Gardena, Compton, Westchester, King, Drew, did we function? Lil, what that dog gave me, that's on cup. All my kids, I sock you up. Have you ever took a fade and ran 3 more back to back? Oh, you haven't? Then shut the up and keep it rap. I'm from the land. Don't say you hate LA when you don't travel past the 10. Am I tripping? Yes, I am. Meditate over some money. I see Franklin, I find Van.
You are listening to The Black Pack here at KBLA Talk 1580. I'm your host, Adrianne Shropshire. And if you are listening here in LA, I am hoping that you and your families are safe, that you are out of harm's way, and that if you have to be outside, you are masked up and protecting yourself. I was so happy to see when I was coming into the station, folks outside waiting at bus stops, walking to their cars with masks on. I think folks understand the seriousness of the conditions that we are living in and are taking care of themselves, or trying to take care of themselves the best we can. We are witnessing the worst climate emergency in the state's history right now, but each year brings us more and more climate catastrophes. And yet there are those among us who still refuse to acknowledge the real threat to our communities, that continued and ongoing stalled investment in climate resiliency and shift to renewable energies, and generally a focus on protecting our planet. So climate change is the issue here. And it is important for us not just to understand that in this moment, but to be clear about that as we move forward, because I know that if you're looking at the news and commentary that I am also looking at, you'd think that these fires are about something else. But I promise you, it is our unwillingness to address our climate crisis that is responsible for the fires we are seeing burning across Los Angeles County right now. So I'm struck by a few things when it comes to how the mainstream news is covering what's happening in Los Angeles. So one is a complete and utter lack of curiosity by the national media to even try to understand the geography of Los Angeles. And for local media, the simply conflating the entire region down to some amorphous thing called LA, as if there aren't other cities that are involved or that are suffering or that are experiencing the devastation and loss, as if the entire coordinated process that's happening, the coordinated command that's happening across multiple municipalities across the entire county of Los Angeles, including multiple officials working together to try and address this issue, as if all of that is not happening. And the impact, right, of that sort of coverage that suggests that there isn't a huge swath of our region that is affected by this. in some ways means that we're not actually, or they're not actually reporting on the scope and scale of the devastation to a broad set of communities, right, across the entire region. When we think about the historically Black community of Altadena, it is not Pacific Palisades, but that should not mean that the destruction and devastation that has happened to that community should be lost because of a rush to cover and report on beach communities. The people that I personally know, who have lost their homes or who have been evacuated, they live in Altadena or Pasadena. They live in parts of the valley that no one is actually talking about. So news and information about the scope and scale of what is happening here is being distorted because of a hyper-focus on the loss to some communities, but not others. I'm also struck by the rush to attack and blame anything but the actual problem, which is climate change. I'm appalled watching the attacks and distorted commentary about Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, the misinformation that is literally everywhere, with misinformed takes about the fire department's budget to baseless opinions on fire hydrants. The city and the county of Los Angeles just faced a weather event that has never been seen before. It's been called a fire hurricane. We saw 100-mile-an-hour winds. I wasn't where there was 100-mile-an-hour winds, but there were at least 30, 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds by me. We saw embers flying across the city and county. You all have seen the pictures and the videos. Our infrastructure was not built to address the scale of destruction that we saw starting on Tuesday. And we are being overwhelmed, frankly, by decades of inaction on the issue. But nonetheless, the city and county officials have responded to the best of their ability given the historic nature of this event. But the rampant hot takes that we've seen, folks moving super fast with Twitter fingers instead of digging a quarter of an inch deeper before blasting people with misinformation, has really got to stop because it is unhelpful to the people who are actually suffering on the ground. We know that, almost our entire news and information ecosystem has capitulated to MAGA and its authoritarian leaders who are laser focused on undermining leadership and the experience of those who are leading our cities right now. We are not 2 weeks into 2025, and Black women mayors have not only had to deal with terrorist attacks like we saw in New Orleans and historic climate events like we're seeing and living through in Los Angeles right now, but they've had to push back on racist and misogynistic attacks about DEI, which has nothing to do with the climate catastrophe that we're experiencing, nor the response to it. So we just watched this happen during the presidential campaign, where racist and misogynistic attacks simply meant to undermine people and whole communities were waged. And we're seeing it swiftly move with lies and distortions and manipulation during times of crisis as we enter into this new year. So we should stay focused on putting out these fires and helping people who have lost their homes and apartments and jobs. We've been focused on people losing their homes, as we should. But we know that business communities were lost in the fires. We know that people have lost their jobs. And we're talking about retail workers, lower wage workers. We're talking about domestic workers who have lost their employment. And we really need to be focused on them instead of moving right-wing talking points throughout our information ecosystem. So, and if we did not think that the race for LA mayor was not happening for another year or so, the way that Rick Caruso has turned the city's devastation into political theater by literally thirsting for any camera he can get himself in front of, we certainly know that it is politics and not concern for our city that is driving the news coverage of these tragic events that we are seeing. So we need to be careful and resist feeding into the frenzy of the coverage that we're seeing happening. But it also just speaks to, as I said a second ago, about the news and information ecosystem that we live in and how it is clearly increasing the way in which things are distorted, in which disinformation move. And so when we come forward, I'm going to have a really helpful conversation for all of us, I think, with Isoso Oso, who's the founder and CEO of Onyx Impact, about disinformation and the new age of political propaganda that is distorting how we understand what is happening all around us. So stay with us. We have an important conversation to have when we come forward. This is the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
The smarter way to clean your floors. It's time to make the swap. Swiffer Power Mop.
Introducing the new Swiffer Power Mop, the all-in-one tool that gives you a mop and bucket clean in half the time. The solution's built right in, so no heavy bucket, and the pad has hundreds of scrubbing strips to get deep into grout. Don't mop harder, mop smarter.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Charmin Ultra Strong. You can use less, better than the rest. Charmin Ultra Strong. Your booty past the clean test. Salmon wave texture, it's the best. Study up, teach a lesson on fresh. Your booty past the clean test. Yes, sir. Charmin Ultra Strong.
Charmin Ultra Strong with diamond weave texture cleans better than the leading one-ply brand, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you, neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. Sign up for Notify LA on your phone to get fire danger alerts and updates, or check on lafd.org. The Watch Duty app is free and provides wildfire maps and updates in real time. Keep your gas tank full and plan your route in case you have to leave the area. City and county officials are urging you to pack a go bag so you can be ready to leave your home quickly in case of an evacuation order. Your go bag should include a couple of days of clothing, copies of your important documents and ID, money, insurance information, your medications, electronic devices, batteries, chargers, a small radio, and emergency contacts. If you receive an evacuation order, gather your loved ones, grab your bag, your pet food, and leave immediately. For information on shelters for your pets or even your family, call 211 for the City of Los Angeles and 311 county-wide. Wearing a mask outside will help protect you from smoke, toxic fume, and particulate matter. If you don't need to go out, it's best to stay home with the windows closed. Getting to know your neighbors is a great way to stay safe, stay connected, and share resources. And Angelinos are stepping up to help, so reach out and find the assistance you need. Mutual Aid LA Network is constantly updating a Google Sheet with mutual aid resources. You can find it at tiny.cc-malan-fire. The earlier you make a plan, the better off you'll be when every second counts. Praying for LA, preparing, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
You don't talk to me like that. You don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
This is the Black Pack, and I am your host, Adrianne Shropshire. We are joined this afternoon by Isoso Oso, who's the founder and CEO of Onyx Impact. Welcome, Isoso. Good to have you here talking to us about this important issue.
Thank you so much, Adrianne. I'm so excited to be here with you, and obviously want to start off by expressing my deepest sympathies for the cities and communities in California that have been affected by these fires, praying for everyone's safety, and 100% agree with your intro and the need for us to focus on what is actually causing these issues, and not let mis and disinformation be a distraction for progress and change.
Yeah, thank you. I think that one of the things that we have all felt here is the love and sympathy from folks from around the country. So appreciate you expressing that as well. So I know that you and I talked many times, certainly throughout the course of the last election cycle, about the way our communities have been targeted by mis and disinformation, and the ways in which that mis and disinformation sort of seeps, into our social media feeds, how it sort of lodges itself, right, and sort of expands, right, within our community. And I wanted to do two things. One is to first have you talk a little bit about Onyx Impact, and what the work that you all are doing to try and help us all understand what this new sort of information ecosystem looks like that is really designed to misinform. So that's one. If you could just talk a little bit about your work and what you all are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We founded Onyx Impact last year, as you said, as a nonprofit with the goal and the mission of creating healthier online information ecosystems for Black communities specifically, and understanding how Black communities are engaging with information both online and offline. And we founded the organization because we saw that so many organizations existed to understand and map how mis and disinformation were affecting various communities, and there was absolutely no one looking at that level of research into how this was impacting Black communities. And as you know, as we all know, there is a Black Twitter, a Black Facebook, Black YouTube, a Black media ecosystem. And if you're not aware of it or engaged with it, you're just not going to have an understanding of how narratives spread, what's dangerous, what's not, what the main issues are. And so we founded Onyx Impact to address this issue as we saw kind of the hyperbolic spread of disinformation in our media system writ large. And so what we do is one, do research to understand how and where Black folks in particular are coming across inaccurate or misleading information, and most importantly, what types of tools and strategies we can arm our community with to make it harder for those types of narratives to spread, to make it easier for us to build these healthy information ecosystems.
And that's, I think that part of the reason why I felt like there's a couple of things that we'll get into that I thought that was important for us to have this conversation. But there is the immediacy of what is happening in LA right now. And it was really fascinating to me and disheartening, really, in a way, to see how disinformation just sort of got away from us in some ways here around what's happening with the wildfires. And it sort of started with the thing about the fire department budget, right? But I think but it is not now and won't be, right, just limited to that. And so just from your experience in doing this work, and particularly focused on sort of the research and trying to understand how misinformation moves, I think my question for you is how can we be careful? I think particularly in moments of crisis, right? Like a set of unprecedented climate catastrophes. Like, how can we be careful that we are not also sharing and moving disinformation?
I think that's a phenomenal question, and I think I'm going to address it from two standpoints: from the almost the policy response, and then our individual kind of response. I think we need to rethink crisis management and make sure that dismantling and disinformation and misinformation is at the top of what we need to do and need to be ready to address immediately, because we know that in any of these narratives take hold, people will be harmed.
Yeah.
Right. Like that we saw that with the hurricanes last year during the election season with New Orleans, as you said. With it is something that is, I think, we are obviously and need to be focused on helping as many people as possible, but the speed at which online false narratives can spread is particularly dangerous in this new media ecosystem in a way that it has never been before, and that is because disinformation, which is defined as incorrect information that is being purposely spread, right? Disinformation works because our brains all work in a very similar way, regardless of our education, income, background, what have you. And that is that the more times that we hear something, the more likely we believe it's true, and the more likely we are to believe other people believe it's true as well. And so our brains substitute repetition for truth. It's how we teach little kids things. It's how we still default now. And what that means is that, if the president of the United States comes out every single day and says that the sky is green,
right,
eventually we are going to all look outside and be like, I'm not sure. Right. Or maybe it's somewhere in between, right? And so when you're dealing with a media ecosystem that can put the same false narrative in front of people over and over and over again at the speed of which it can right now in 2025, right? We are dealing with we're fighting tidal waves of information. And so one of the things that I think we need to do as consumers of information and as good community members, good community stewards, is make sure that we're double, triple, quadruple fact check and make sure that we're telling others in our community to do so as well. It's actually, there are studies that show that if you tell someone to double check before they spread false information online, they're more likely to do so, significantly more likely to do so for 72 hours. Yeah. Right. So it's not.
It's not forever, but it's at least a window of time.
It's a window, exactly. It's a window of time that we can make sure that we're helping each other. The other thing I would say is disinformation and misinformation, like these types of information warfare, this type of propaganda really needs fear and outrage to spread, right? And so we need to be particularly on guard for posts or statements or videos that elicit a very strong negative reaction. That's when you see something like that, your first thought now has to be, okay, let me step back and double check that this wild situation is true.
Right. That's so important, and I'm glad you said that, because I think we're seeing that right now as we are watching what comes across social media, what's getting picked up on some of the social platforms are those kinds of things, videos that are supposed to spark outrage. I'm particularly struck by there's a video of Mayor Bass sort of refusing to answer the question of a reporter from Sky News, and I think that it's interesting to me because I think that people don't understand what Sky News is, right? Sky News is essentially the UK's Fox News, and so and so it is. When she's being bombarded with offensive and outrageous questions from what is essentially Fox News, the idea that she should have to respond to those, is part of the it's the gotcha, right? It's not only the gotcha, in the question, but it's also in the, okay, now we got a clip that we can put out there, frame it however we want to, and sort of, make people feel outraged. I want to, when we come forward, I want to talk to you, because you said this thing about fact checking, that we need to fact check. And I want to talk to you about what is happening at Meta and the fact that, and I mentioned this a little bit last week, but the fact that they are changing all kinds of things, including fact checking. So I want to talk when we come forward about that, and then a little bit too about just continuing the conversation about how people can make sure that they're keeping their themselves safe from mis and disinformation, and protecting their friends and followers on their social media feeds. We'll be continuing this conversation with the Isosa Osa, founder and CEO of On Its Impact, about mis and disinformation and how we keep ourselves safe. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Immediate evacuations are being issued as a new fire breaks out in Los Angeles. The Archer Fire is burning in the Granada Hills neighborhood next to Interstate 5. This new fire broke out late Friday morning and started spreading quickly. Meta is ending key diversity programs and disbanding its DEI team effective immediately. Employees are criticizing the move, which follows recent policy shifts like ending fact-checking. A federal civil rights complaint targets Washington, D.C. public schools over an empowerment club for Black and African identifying girls. Parents defending education claims it violates Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. The Office for Civil Rights has not announced if it will investigate. And St. Cloud, Florida denounced its racist past as a sundown town in a city council proclamation. Councilmember Jennifer Paul, the first Black member, called it a step toward unity and healing. I'm Amber Payton on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Compassion sponsorship means food, healthcare, education, and more for a child in poverty. And there are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The neutral site for the Rams playoff game Monday night against the Vikings appears to be favoring the Vikings after the NFL made the decision to move the game from SoFi Stadium to Glendale, Arizona. The point spread went up for the Vikings from 1 point to 2.5. Tickets for the game at State Farm Stadium go on sale today at noon. It'll be interesting to see how many Rams and Vikings fans can make the late travel adjustment to get to Glendale, a Phoenix suburb. The Lakers confirmed that coach J.J. Redick is among the residents in Pacific Palisades who lost their home. Redick and his family were renting a house in the town, which has lost over 5,300 structures to the wildfires in L.A. County. Golden State Warriors coach Steve Kerr, who grew up in Pacific Palisades, lost his childhood home. Kerr's mother and other family members were evacuated on Tuesday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcasts of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black.
Follow the leader.
Following the leader.
Oh my God. Follow the leader. 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 Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services resources for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Ever have one of those days where your gut just feels blah?
Ugh, yes.
Occasional bloating or gas could be signs that your gut is out of balance, but Align Probiotic can help. Align 24/7 Digestive Support is a daily use probiotic with a unique strain to help relieve occasional digestive issues. It's the #1 doctor recommended brand. So when you feel the signs, it's time to try Align. Align Probiotic. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Want to play a game with me and Dad?
Mommy's not feeling good.
You need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with Dayquil VapoCool. It's Dayquil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
Come on, honey. Let's let Mommy rest.
You guys are amazing. And so is Dayquil VapoCool.
Dayquil VapoCool, the vaporizing daytime coughing, aching, fever, power through your day medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey, I am D.L. Hughley, host of the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, heard weekdays from 2 to 4 exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. I promise to make you think a little, but laugh a whole lot more. So tune in to the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show 2 to 4 only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the Black Pack, and we are so happy to have Isosa Osa on, who is the founder and CEO of On Its Impact, which focuses on understanding mis and disinformation and how to combat it in Black communities. So, Isosa, last week I just happened to, because it was news of the day, just happened to have a pretty quick conversation with one of my guests about what was happening at Meta, which is basically, for folks who don't know all the alphabets, right? It is Facebook and Instagram. So for those who have Facebook and Instagram accounts, these are the people who run it. And so I think we talked about, at the time, we were really talking about the artificial intelligence characters who suddenly became the talk of the internet, or at least blue sky, because you had some journalists and others who were engaging with them and just learning all kinds of crazy things, which, one of the things that certainly became clear is that there is this sort of effort to pull us all into this kind of virtual reality where we don't know who we're talking to. We don't know if they're real. We don't know if they're bots, right? But they're there kind of to move an agenda, right? These fake people on social media. So we sort of talked about that. Then Meta comes out, Mark Zuckerberg comes out and says that they're going to end their fact checking, which means that you can just say any old crazy thing on Facebook or Instagram. Doesn't have to be true, doesn't have to be real. And, the algorithm will move it however it moves it. Today we learned that Meta is getting rid of its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. One of the things that they said, which should have been kind of insulting to their staff when they just said that they were going to end their fact checking and moderation, is that they were going to move a division out of California and into Texas, so that people wouldn't think that there was bias, which is one, insulting to their staff, because of course, well, the assertion that their staff is biased just because they're in California is, I'm sure probably inaccurate, but also just propaganda in and of itself, right? But so we're seeing these sort of, we know what has happened at Twitter in terms of the way that it's, sort of just a cesspool for racist at this point. There is no moderation. People really do say whatever they want, and their algorithm lifts stuff up, right? Now it's changing, right? As Elon Musk said, people should be nice. Just as Donald Trump is coming into office, people should suddenly be nice, and that the algorithm will lift up the nice things now that people say about government. And so,
okay.
What is going on? What is happening in the social media ecosystem?
Absolutely. And, with respect to this Meta announcement in Zuckerberg, what's happening? We're seeing cowardness. We're seeing levels of cowardness from billionaire to billionaire that we have seldom seen before. Mark Zuckerberg is fawning, caving to, other far right billionaires, and with policy changes to allow hate to spread, to allow trust to erode on their platforms. They may say that they still have protected guidelines, but when you look at the changes that have actually been made, we are at the point where they have said it's explicit, like it is okay to call Black people farm equipment now, right? Like that is what these decisions are going to do. And as we said, when you're faced with an issue like disinformation, where the more times you see something, the more likely you are to believe it's true. The levels of trust that are going to be eroded in our society via these platforms is outrageous. We know that Community Notes has not worked on X, as you have said. It's not going to work on Meta either. And what's even worse is that
say what Community Notes are.
Right, Community Notes are what X, Twitter has used as a potential stand-in, a terrible stand-in for actual fact-checking from a third-party source, where they just let other community, anyone else on X, just make claims as to what that something is true or not true. And so what you see end up happening is just loads of additional mis and disinformation. If someone doesn't like someone else, the Community Notes will be outrageously false. And I also just want to point out that the overtly political and profit-driven nature of what Meta is doing, and because we do know that they have a massive antitrust lawsuit against the FTC coming up in April, and it could fundamentally break up and their precious monopoly and keep them from exorbitant amounts of profit. And so that is why we are seeing this kowtow. That is why we're seeing these folks do this right now. And of course, they're going to announce that they're getting rid of diversity and equity programs right afterwards. In the absence of facts, Adrianne, why have values?
Right.
Thank
you. Say that again, actually. Say that again.
In the absence of facts, why have values? We're talking about equity. Like, we're talking about fairness.
Right.
Right. And these are why stop at Texas? Why not move your team to Hungary? Right. Like, how far do you want to push this? And I think in this environment, like, everyone's going to need help trying to navigate this new online ecosystem. And I would say that it's more important than ever that people like you are followed, that we are following Black news, Black journalists, Black media who we can trust, and we can trust to report good and fair information more so than ever.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Intercept, some reporting by the Intercept revealed that Meta's updated standards also now permit a wide range of hate speech and dehumanizing rhetoric, which I think you mentioned, right? Allegedly under the guise, right, of making things less politicized, which is also just kind of crazy. And so I just when we think about both and I think you raised the question of trust, but also just like exacerbating the contentiousness and divisive way in which the information ecosystem is, trending. What impact does this have on the ecosystem as a whole? If the social media companies, the social media platforms are basically saying it's fair game, be as racist as you would like to be, say whatever, it doesn't matter if what you're saying is the truth. How does that affect our information ecosystem in general?
That's such a good question, and it's such an important point, because there's a reason why disinformation is taking down not like communities, democracies, nation states, what have you. Like how can this little word be so powerful, right? And we talked about what disinformation can do, but it also has a massive impact on civic engagement, right? Mm-hmm. When you go to countries that are autocrat, what have you, a liberal country, a liberal government, what you is massively lower levels of civic engagement, because they are flooded with lies nonstop, and people don't have time in that type of environment to discern what is true and false, and so they just say, "I'm stepping back. I don't know what's true. I don't know what's false. Both sides are lying to me, and so I'm just going to step back." And so that is, we're talking about these social media companies, our primary means of communication. Mm-hmm. And if that is what they are allowing, that is what we're going to see in our ecosystem moving forward, and that's what we have to fight to prevent.
Okay, we are having a conversation with Isosa Osa, who is the founder and CEO of Onyx Impact, and they've study mis and disinformation and how we can combat it. When we come forward, we're going to continue this conversation on I think the question of how do we protect ourselves, how do we combat it when we know that our social media platforms, where our community gets most of our news and information, by the way, when they have just decided to open the floodgates to propaganda. More when we come forward. This is the Black Pack on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you in tough times, connecting you with resources and what you need to know. Evacuation shelters are located in the Pasadena Civic Center, the Dream Center in LA, the Westwood Recreation Center, and many more. You can call 311 for details. If you're in Los Angeles County and in need of food, call Omni Ministries at 310-631-1557. Donations can be made to Zelle, Omni Ministries, Inc. at yahoo.com. Parking Lot I outside of Rose Bowl Stadium is a pop-up mutual aid hub where you can pick up everything from clothing to food to hygiene supplies for free. To volunteer or donate to help victims of the fire, contact the LA Emergency Network at enla.org. The Cochran Firm and Ivy McNeil, Wyatt Purcell and Diggs, Jasmine Canick, and others have launched a GoFundMe specifically targeting Altadena. Visit LA Fires, the impacted Black community urgently needs help on GoFundMe, and donate to help Black evacuees fighting for survival. Airbnb is offering free temporary housing to people displaced by the fires. Call 211 to sign up. The LA Chamber of Commerce is stepping up to help you sort out insurance claims and other paperwork. Reach them at 213-580-7500. South LA Cafe has free groceries, clothing, and water available at 1700 Browning Boulevard in LA. Track their giveaways or volunteer through their Instagram at South LA Cafe. U-Haul is donating short-term storage free of charge for 30 days to evacuees. Shelter for small or large animals can be accessed by calling 211. A Black-led coalition of community organizations is offering support and resources in the Altadena area at the Flint Ridge Center at 236 West Mountain Street in Pasadena. For comprehensive lists of resources for housing, food, shelter, and more, visit Mutual Aid LA Network on Instagram. Praying for LA and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach? Transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal? Prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You don't talk to me like that. You don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
This is the Black Pack, where we try to give folks accurate information about what is happening in the world. And we are joined by Isosa Osa, who is the founder and CEO of Honest Impact, which studies and does research on mis and disinformation and how it impacts the Black community. So, Isosa, I know one of the things that that I've heard you talk about before is this idea of, I think I'm going to get it right, gateway platforms, right? And so we know that this is not just about, when we think about Facebook or Instagram or Meta, right? Meta and Twitter, right? Or X or whatever it's called. But there are ways in which this information kind of comes into our community, right? And it isn't because, we're in the furthest, deepest, darkest corners, right, of the dark web. But that stuff sort of finds its way, right? And so can you talk, just as we sort of move to talking about how do we protect ourselves, what are those, right? And how should people view them?
Absolutely. And so, what we have found is that Black communities, just like every other community, right, there are online pockets of fringe actors or actors spreading harmful or misleading information in our own community. And, whether it be around race or gender or health or, foreign actors or politics, what have you. And that is, part of just having an internet, right? Mm-hmm. But how do we go from those very small sectors of the internet to things going viral, right? We need what's called gateway platforms and gateway influencers. These are real, authentic news, Black media figures that have legitimate Black audiences that are staples of our culture, or people that we should be engaging with more. But in the midst of their broader lifestyle content or broader news content, what have you, right? They may pick up one of these narratives that may be going viral, that may be at a point where it could potentially break out. Right. And when these bad actors can get access, can get their narratives talked about on these very large platforms, right? You are able to expose way more people. You're able to have it be repeated more often. You're far more likely to have that narrative go viral, and therefore have far more Black folks believe it. We can go through all types of cases or situations. The absurd lie, that Kamala Harris wasn't black is an example,
right?
It's a political example. But there's plenty of non-political examples.
I mean, there's an example that's happening right now. It's live, which is a Blavity article that was posted that had many of the kind of mis and disinformation or just non-factual assertions about what's happening here in Los Angeles, and sort of attempting to place blame at the feet of Mayor Bass for an unprecedented climate crisis. And what was interesting that I found interesting about the article is that in the comments, they just got dragged. All right, so which was, heartening that people saw what was there and said, you are spreading mis and disinformation, do better, right? And so I think that is it is a testament to the degree to which people are on high alert, right? About, folks misinforming our community. Talk to us a little bit about what folks can do, because sometimes it's hard to know. I mean, I was totally freaked out, I have to say, by the Meta artificial intelligence bots last week. Like, oh my God, this is, insane. But talk to us, about what people can do to make sure that they're not moving mis and disinformation, that they can recognize mis and disinformation. I mean, you already said one thing that I thought was important is if something looks like it's designed specifically to just, to make people outraged, then that's probably something you should be careful about.
Right, absolutely, and there's so many tips and things that we can follow, and I'll try to shorten and only give a few here, but I think it's important to also just acknowledge that a lot these Zuckerberg, Elon, all of these folks, these social media companies believe that we need them more than they need us, and when in fact Black people made Twitter worth $44 billion. Like we made and TikTok, the modern day media sources, like Black folks have been the primary drivers of cultural innovations on these platforms. And I think it's just critical for us to know the type of power that we've had and how to exercise it, and especially in times like this. Right now, I think it's incredibly important that we know the settings, our social media privacy settings. We should not be giving these platforms any of our data. Yeah. Point blank.
Good point.
If they're going to be pro-discrimination, pro-hate, antitrust, then they should not have access to our information. So make sure that you're checking your settings off the bat of all of the social media platforms that you use. I think it's also important that not just, as I said before, that we follow Black media and Black journalism and bookmark and check these things before we go elsewhere, but understand the harm in reposting lies just to debunk them. If you are, it's almost never. It's better to just state the correct fact. But when you are posting something to say, look at how outrageous these other people are, you're now exposing your whole online community to a false narrative
to
as
the
well.
Lie, yeah,
right, to the lie, exactly. And we've got to be much better. I know how good it feels. I'm a researcher. I know how good it feels to dunk on people, right? But like when we are with mis and disinformation, it is just not the way to go. And lastly, I would say that when we are talking to our community members, our family, our friends that may be down some of these rabbit holes, right? It's important to do so from a place of empathy and curiosity, whether or not we are curious or not. But it is incredibly important not to drive them away or further down those rabbit holes, right? Like it is going to get far harder. And because a lot of folks say, one of the things that we always push back against at Honest Impact is whenever someone says that Black people are more susceptible to mis or disinformation, right? We don't have any evidence of that. We don't have any research that backs that up. It's actually far more likely that Black folks are less susceptible in ways because we have an overall higher level of skepticism in many kind of apparatuses. But so in this case, what that also means is it's easier to kind of pull our folks back from some of these spaces by being curious, by recommending, hey, I know you had this article. Have you seen this, or have you tried looking at here? No worries if not. But it's a slow process, and it's one I would only recommend for friends and family, and not like an online. Because we don't have time to change hearts and minds for everyone, but for the folks that are closest to us.
Right, and things move very quickly. So I'm going to just repeat the things that you said that folks, and you tell me if I get one of them wrong, that folks should be doing. So one is to check your privacy settings and make sure that you're not inadvertently giving away a bunch of your information on whatever social media platforms you're on. You said follow Black media and Black journalists. So I'm appreciative of the folks who are listening to us today at KBLA Talk 1580. Don't share lies. So if you want to comment or even debunk a lie that you see or mis or disinformation that you see, don't repost the lie. Just address the thing, right? And then fourth is to talk to your people with empathy. Don't push them further into the sectors of mis and disinformation. So I want to thank you so much. It's such an important topic, and I would love to have you back on as we sort of go through the inauguration period and all, because we're going to start seeing these things flying all over the place, and it's just going to be so important for us to be on top of it. So I appreciate the work that you and your team do at Onyx Impact. Asosa Osa, founder and CEO of Onyx Impact, appreciate your time and sharing with us today. When we come forward, we're going to talk a little bit about what folks are doing as we head toward the inauguration, and we know that there are lots of folks that are gearing up to mobilize. We're going to have a conversation about that when we come forward. This is KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the Black Pack.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Los Angeles cut $17.5 million from its firefighting budget before the Pacific Palisades wildfire, while police funding rose by $126 million. The current city budget signed by Black Mayor Karen Bass includes about $819 million for firefighting, down from more than $837 million in the previous fiscal year.